I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses. It would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hindquarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the 30-30. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Odyssey. I'm your host, Wayne, joined as always by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. What's going on, ma'am?
Not much. Glad to be here. Excited about tonight.
Yeah, I am too. You've been talking about this gentleman for a little while now, and you got to go and actually watch a presentation of his, right?
Yes, it was amazing. I had never been to anything like that before, so I didn't know what to expect. And I'll let him tell it. I'm not going to tell his story, but the way he broke everything down, my youngest daughter went with me, and I mean, she's all about it. She's all about it now. So, raise her right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You got a future ghost hunter living under your roof.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Very nice. Let's get all this good stuff up out the way. Guys, if you have not done so already, please take a second, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it greatly.
And if you would like to be on our show with Wayne and I, please email us, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com, or myself, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. And we'd love to have you on. And we do have an opening for this Thursday afternoon at 2. If that is something that interests you, please hit one of us up.
I want to ask everybody, head over to paranormalworldproductions.com. Check out the website. Check out all the other shows. Pick you up some merch. Just show some support. All the other shows, including that Bigfoot podcast, which we dropped the first 5 episodes this past Friday the 13th, and they are doing very well. Talked to Brian today for a little while, and we were both really pleased with how it's going, getting all kinds of feedback from you guys, and we appreciate that. So yeah, head over to paranormalworldproductions.com and show all of the shows some support, please.
And while you're at it, when you have questions this evening, we absolutely adore them. If you would just put them all in capital letters, that way Wayne and myself can see them, our guests can see them, and we can try and grab them up for you.
And almost lastly, I want to remind everybody about Manimal Research on Facebook, my organization I founded back in 2019. We have the Facebook group over there. We'd love to have you come and become a member if you have not done so already. That's Manimal Research on Facebook.
And head over to reaperapparelco.com. Any purchase made using the promo code Paranormal Odyssey will receive 10% off of your purchase. So I say it often, but the holiday seasons are going to be here. I mean, we're going to blink and it's going to be next year. So get in on this deal and save you some money.
Very good, very good. Who we got hanging out tonight? Dr. John Baranchuk. Hello, guys. Wayne's still unable to find. I'll send you a link. Put that up there. I'll send you a link when we get done here, John, so that you can find it. Carson, what's up, buddy? Miss Naoma, how are you doing? Ma'am, lovely to have you as always. Ristal, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think it's Ristal. Like pistol, but it's Ristal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in and hanging out, guys. We appreciate it. All right. You want to talk a little bit about Mr. James Burnett?
Yes. So probably a month ago or a little over a month ago. Now we've lived here almost 5 years, and I'm ashamed to say I had no idea that library was less than 5 miles from my house.
Not much of a reader.
It's shameful. It's shameful. So I go in there and I'm looking at all the paperwork that they have laid out. When you go up there, quit laughing at me. You are trifling, sir. And I see his name with the paranormal, and I'm like, shut up. This is like the coolest thing. So I picked up the paper and I actually reached out to him when I got home. And so he was nice enough to, he's very responsive and answering me back. And so I had talked to him on the phone and set this up. And I guess this interview's been probably a month coming. We set this up a long time ago, but he's super cool. And like you said, we went to one of his presentations last night. And I know not everybody is local to he and I, but it was really cool because he had all the equipment and everything there. So I'm excited.
You loaded up a few pictures that we're sharing while he's on, and also going to link to his YouTube channel. It's brand new. He just got a couple of subscribers because it's new, so we want to help him out. Everybody head over there when we share it and hit that subscribe button. He's just got a few clips up, but we're going to share one of them with you tonight. Yeah. But all of that out of the way, if you are ready, man, we'll just bring him on.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, everybody. Mr. James Burnett. How you doing, sir?
Hi, how's it going?
Doing very, very well. Thank you so very much for taking the time to come and hang out with us this evening. We really appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Yep. I'm trying to get the screen situated here. So we're
I'm like
just at Tiffany.
I'm way too big for the viewers. Thanks.
All right, James. Yeah, man, just start from the beginning. Tell us what got you interested in this line of work, this hobby, or however you look at it, just how you got your start, what happened, and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, sure. So I as far as I could remember, I've always been drawn into the paranormal. Like I was told stories when I was at a real young age that I would have conversations with people that wasn't there, like, and it was so much more than like an imaginary friend. My mom would, it was so vivid, the conversations that I would have, that my mom would think that there was somebody in the room with me, and it wasn't just like me playing toys or anything with someone that wasn't there. It was just like actually talking to someone. And I had this is one of the things that I remember, but it's kind of I was real young at the time, but I had a bad habit of letting people inside the house when my parents was asleep. So one time, I remember I was talking to someone, and I would call my other dad, and my mom came in, and she was already upset with me because she thought I let someone in the house. No one was there. She was like, "Did you let someone in?" "No." "Who are you talking to?" "My other dad." So after she found out that I didn't let no one in, she was just like looking around the house, making sure that I wasn't lying to her. What
Now you
really,
said, I'm sorry, Jan, you said your other dad. That's what you called. Who is this? What you called?
yeah, that's well, there's a story behind that. Um, we we were at a bank. I was in the back seat of the car, and my dad was inside the bank, and then my mom was in the passenger side. So I was playing around in the back seat, and I saw this guy that came out, and I said, "Hey, mom, that's what my other dad looks like." And my dad came out, and he was like, "Hey, did you see that guy that came out? He looked a lot like my dad." And
Oh,
my mom said, that you should have heard what James said. He said that's what his other dad looked like."
oh wow.
Um, and and for I never knew my grandfather to begin with because he passed away before I was even born.
Mm.
So do you think you were communicating with your grandfather, like when you were talking, like when y'all had the conversation? Do you feel it was that grandfatherly presence?
Looking back, I would say so because I mean, just like too much of that happening was was not a coincidence.
Right.
Um, Later on, as I got older, I found out there was like an old painting of them, and it was uh, and at the time I didn't know who this guy was, so
Mhm.
not until I got older is until I can kind of realize I was putting everything together that was him.
Right. So Naoma Finn asked, how did your other dad identify himself to you at that time?
It just all of a sudden started to happen because I was the at this point I was the only child, and it just was like he would come up every once in a while. Nothing scary or anything to me. It was just like from what I can remember, it was just like just having someone there, just another part of the family.
Mhm. Yeah. So when he connected with you, it was the feeling of family,
Right.
nothing
Exactly.
spooky. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Now, James, would you consider yourself to have some type of gift of seeing things that aren't there? I mean, I don't really know how to put it. I don't really want to say a medium, but
Mm.
do you feel like more enlightened than others, maybe?
Um, I would say as a small child, like there is a theory within the field that a lot of children will be able to see things that we can't, because you got to think as you get older, you're being told that these things aren't real, and we
Yeah.
lose that capability because um, it's just one of those things to where we just kind of grow out of. Which I was one of the ones that actually grew out of it. Um, so I want to say like. I was about 5 or 6 when I stopped playing with them because I ended up getting another brother, and just kind of went away. And then my dad was kind of stern with all this being. He kind of laughed it off where he didn't really believe this was real. So um, after being told so many times and to being forced into like a dark hallway to turn on the light and all, you can just kind of lose it.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's a question from Naoma. Were you also, she was asking, were you also the only grandchild? But then you said you ended up having another brother, right?
Right,
So
right,
you were the only one while this was going on, right?
right. Yeah. I did have a half brother and two half sisters, but they were like much older than I was. Um, but I didn't. We lived in a different part of a different state, so we didn't really see them that much.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you get older, and that interest just sticks with you. At what age or when did you start actively pursuing this? I mean, as far as going out and looking.
Well, I was in high school, and we actually was having someone from our local community college coming over to speak to us about the college. And it was kind of strange because the person that came by our English class to talk about the class, they were in a parapsychology program, and she was explaining it to us. And then all of a sudden, while she was explaining the class, the whole building lost power.
Hmm.
And she, I mean, everybody was joking about it, where it was because she was in that parapsychology class. But um, you know, I'm on underneath the thought of how many coincidences does it take for something to stop being a coincidence.
Right.
Right.
So after I graduated high school, I actually started in that program as well. Um, the teacher was she was on a episode of Sightings, and she did have like abilities, but I probably, like, after I ended up she ended up retiring, so I was still in college at the time, but I was wanting to pursue it a little bit more because I always thought you had to had a degree in parapsychology. But talking to a couple people, and I no lie, I probably read like 8 handbooks on paranormal investigating, on tips and things of what you would need or how you would be able to do it. And uh, because it was interesting, because every book had their own methodology on how to investigate the paranormal. Um, and it's just after reading a couple of those books, I kind of wanted to take a different approach, because our teacher said that rely on your gut instinct, which everybody has that type of gut instinct when it's almost like uh, if you ever watch like shows where they're out in the middle of the woods, and it's just like a survival instinct type thing, and we don't lose that. That's what she was saying. So that survival instinct that you have, you still have to rely on it when you investigate. And you know even with the with what I'm doing now, the approach that I take, I try to take more of a scientific approach, to where we have hard evidence to give toward any type of clients that we come across. I like to try to capture photos along with video, along with having more than one person having a personal experience.
Well, and one thing I've really liked about last night is you aren't everything's a spirit. Every bump is not a ghost that you
Right.
hear. And you have to, and you explain the importance of debunking things as you're investigating these places for the owners. And
Right.
I thought that was really awesome that you're in that line of thinking that not everything I hear is a ghost.
Exactly. Before I was part of this group, I helped start another paranormal group, which we did several client investigations where, uh, come to find out that the people that we were investigating their house had original wiring in the house. So you got to think these houses around this area was built in the 50s. So the wiring in the house was definitely not up to code. And so our EMF meters were really going off to the point where we couldn't use it. So, and for anyone that doesn't know EMF, the electromagnetic field, so the electricity that's going through these wires are leaking out to the point where you could be a couple inches away from the wall and you're still getting that field. And if you're EMF sensitive, it's even worse for you, because it can cause rashes. It can make you see things, get you sick. I mean, it's just, um, and you got to think, you really don't have to update the wiring in your house unless you crack open a wall or renovation or something like that.
Right. So that segues into it because John Barenchuk was curious about the equipment that you guys used on your investigations. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we use several different types of EMF meters. So what we do with those is, I know a lot of people will want to say that it's a ghost meter or something like that, but it's just something that we're looking for to where if you're in an area that has EMF and there shouldn't be any around, like let's say you're in a building that doesn't have power to it and you get an EMF hit. Well, what's causing that EMF hit if there's no electricity going to the building? Um, so that's one thing that we're looking for. Um, Voice recorders, uh, don't have to have the most expensive voice recorder. We've been actually we actually started using this a couple times. Is the Estes method, where someone has the ghost box in hand and it's a modified radio that scans through the channels real fast. Um, and you'll have one person ask the questions and someone on the other side that can't hear the questions answering them. And then we also use a DVR system, at 8-channel one, so we can keep an eye on the areas at all time that are having that are the most haunted, to see if we can capture something logical or see if we can capture something that is paranormal.
You know, we hear a lot, Tiffany. We've been hearing so much about that Estes method,
Yes.
and that's fairly new to me. James, do you get a lot of activity, have a lot of success out of that method? Because everyone we've talked to seems to really like it.
I find it more credible using that than using the speaker on the ghost box, because if you're investigating with somebody in, you could get contamination, like, or even a power of suggestion, like you can go back and listen to your audio or something and have your investigator say, oh, did you hear that? It said something. Well, with the Estes method, you have one person that's just listening to the radio, and you have one person that's asking the question, so there's no cross contamination there. So if you're getting like I was saying this last night, if you're getting your questions with like random things, I think it would be safe to say to kind of throw that out. But what you're really listening for is something that actually goes along with the questions that you're asking. And then there's other times where you could, and I was also saying that um, a good rule of thumb is that maybe ask the question more than once or in a different way, so that way, whatever you're listening to, you could get some validation with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So is there, sorry,
No, go ahead, Tiffany.
is there one person in particular over another one that gets better responses when the Estes method is used? Or is it?
I really haven't had any luck with one person getting more better luck with it. Now, the location wise, I think that plays a lot of part into it, because there's been times where we've used it and nothing happens, but then there's been other times where um, we went to Carroll County Courthouse in Hillsville, Virginia, where where a guy shot up, him and his family shot up the courthouse in 1912. And it was just like everything we were asking during that investigation was going right along with what the guy was coming up with using the Estes method.
That's crazy. So it was like you were actually talking to. Now, so you would consider that, because I know there are intelligent hauntings and
Right.
then residual hauntings. So, but I would think if whatever was answering those that would be the intelligent haunting, correct?
Exactly, because it was just so much back and forth with with what we were asking and the responses. And then, like I was saying, we were asking the same question, but in a different format. And it was just the same answer that we were getting. So, with that being said, it, it just was too much of a coincidence for it not to be something that was actually going on with that.
Right. Right. So, and you were talking, do you do this just, you don't do this just locally anymore, right?
Right. Yeah. We've been to Pennsylvania. We did the world largest ghost hunt in York, Pennsylvania a couple years ago. We been to North Carolina, Tennessee. So, I mean, especially this side of the United States, there you have a lot of locations that are really available to you. Not to give discredit for the West Coast, but the all the Civil War battles and everything that took place around here. I mean, I think I said this last night. You can actually throw a rock at somewhere and land in a Civil War battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in a pretty active state. So
That's
to say the least.
yeah.
Now, James, you mentioned Tennessee. Where have you been in Tennessee?
Around the Bristol area, right before the pandemic happened, we had probably, I want to say, like four private home locations within that area
Okay.
before the pandemic. I mean, it was just, I don't know what it was. It was just right around that area in Bristol on the Tennessee side that it was just crazy. And it was all within like a couple miles of each other because it seemed like every time we came back home, someone in that area was requesting us to come back and take another look.
So do you think that was the same spirit that was moving from place to place?
From my perspective, I don't really think it was the same spirit. Now I think there was something that happened in Bristol on the Tennessee side that, I mean, we normally when we do a private residence investigation, we did try to dig up as much history so we can see if there's anything that correlates to the investigation, the field work that we do. I
Mhm.
couldn't find nothing within the history of it, but it just was too much of a. It was too interesting to find nothing that happened there that kept pulling us back there.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you find yourself doing more residential stuff or commercial?
Residential comes and goes. I guess the biggest problem is, I believe, is that it's so hard to get your name out there to let people know, hey, there's a paranormal group. They're with you, and if you ever need anything, give us a holler. And that's why we try to do so many events and all to try to get our name out there,
Mhm.
because it's not like you turn on the TV and there's an ad for a paranormal group, you know.
Right.
Um, so it just really depends on how well you can market your group's name out there. But to answer your question, it's some years are better than others, but that's why I hate to do it. But sometimes you have to break down and pay a good chunk of change to go to these places that are known to be haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had went to St. Albans, and I was really intrigued with this story last night when you were talking about the boiler room and the staircase and I mean, because there was physical activity. Was it St. Albans that you were talking about?
Yeah, yeah, the boiler room.
Actually, James, but before you start talking about St. Albans, we actually have a clip pulled up from your YouTube channel from that investigation, I believe. So if it's all right with you,
Okay.
we'll go ahead and play it. Let's see if we can get it going. Now it's a little bit low, guys. So y'all listen carefully. I'll play it a couple of times. It's only about 26 seconds. So I'll play it a couple of times. But here we go. You can definitely hear something responding. I can't make it out. Were you able to make it out? What are you thinking that it's saying there, James?
Well, with the headphones on, and then I played it for a couple other people with the headphones on, which it is better if you can listen to a lot of this stuff with them on. But I think it was personally saying Virginia for some reason.
Yeah, and they go by so fast. The EVPs, they're just like a blip.
Right. Yeah, I don't like tampering with them too much because then you actually lose the the actual sound. So that's why I try to. The most I ever do is try to amplify it or slow it down just a little bit. Because if
Mhm.
you do it too much, then you're losing the quality of the actual voice, and you could get into voice matrix in that way.
Yeah, that way it doesn't get distorted.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if you want to, yeah, talk about the St. Albans
Okay.
investigation.
Well, since you play the clip, I'll set that up for you, and then I'll go into the boiler room because
Okay.
when I captured this voice, I was actually on a staircase by myself. I had a group that was with me, but they were already in the next room, and I was uh, going down the staircase until it sounded like somebody was behind me, and I thought it was the other group. To the point where I started going back up. I shouted down to the group that was in front of me that I was with. And I was like, "Hey, I'm hearing somebody. Let me tell them that we're down this way and see if they can find another spot." So I started going back up to the staircase to the point where I could just see the floor and found out that there was no one behind, no one in that room with me. So that's when I started to try to do some questions right there on the staircase. And when I went back and replayed it, that's when I caught that voice. And the strange thing is that I only caught that I had a camcorder with me at the time, along with the voice recorder, and the camcorder did not capture that voice at all. It was only on the voice recorder that captured it. Uh, and I was once I caught it on the recorder, I broke out all my tapes to try to find where that voice was, so I could try to see if I caught it on the camera. And come to find out, it was just on the voice recorder, which talking to a couple people, it kind of made sense. They said the recorder had a more sensitive mic on it
Hmm.
than what was on the camcorder, and that's probably why I didn't capture it on the camcorder, just on my voice recorder that I was running that night. Um, and going back to the boiler room, um, so apparently the story was there was a man that was burned alive in the boiler room, and St. Albans has a rule that they won't let any females in the boiler room alone. It- but it's something to do after you leave that boiler room, that staircase, because when we were investigating there that night, it was my brother, an investigator, and the guy that was running security with us there that night, because we had a small group with us there, and the other group felt uncomfortable, just the two of them, so they asked the guy that was running security to investigate with them. And as they were coming out of the boiler room, the guy that was running security was pushed on the staircase. He said it felt like two hands on the middle of his back and just shoved him. And throughout that whole night, he was limping and all. But the weird thing is that my sister actually did a historic tour there. Uh, she didn't even know about, didn't know all the details about our investigation there that night. But this was like maybe a year or two after we investigated it.
Hmm.
And while she was coming up, from what she described, she was coming up from the staircase, that same staircase where he got pushed, and there was a scratch on her calf from her knee down to near her ankle.
That's Wild. So
Yeah.
Carson wants to know if you've ever been physically attacked.
I've never been physically attacked, but I've been on investigations where people have been, and I've heard about people getting pushed. I've seen people get scratched. Um, we did a client investigation one time. It's where we've actually seen a coffee table move on its own.
No, thank you. And that's what you would classify as like poltergeist activity, correct?
I would say, with that being said, yes, because to jump into this one real quick, it was I wish I had this on camera because it happened several times. It was the first time we ever used a DVR system, and we tinkered around with it. But the camera that we had it pointed at was at an area where it was inside the basement where people saw a apparition of a little boy. So that's where we had the camera at. But to the right of that, somewhat off camera, there was like a couch, like seating area, and in the middle of it was a coffee table. Well, one of the investigators said that asked the little boy if he would like to go home with him and he could play with his little his kid that he has at home. Once he said that, the coffee table moved. And the next thing I know, I saw the investigators coming out of the basement. Like they were in a state of shock almost. And they were telling me what happened because I saw on camera them getting out of the basement kind of quick. And this was the first client case I've want to say that I've ever had that something weird like that has happened, because before I've done a lot of debunking on client cases and never had anything really of that significant happen. But I was there asking questions. Are you sure no one kicked it? Is it possible that someone might have shuffled their foot and moved the coffee table? And they're like, no one's foot was around there.
Right.
So I took a new group in, and I took that same guy that had the kitten that asked that question. And sure enough, it actually happened again. And everybody's foot was away from the coffee table far enough to where no one accidentally kicked it, and it was just like it was almost like it was picked up and then dropped. It wasn't like a scooting sound.
So Kirsten asked again, oh, sorry, not you, wrong person. So let me ask you, you had talked last night about having the Salem library contact you. And I was talking to my husband a little bit about that today at lunch. But I also wanted to get into this picture here.
Yeah.
You tell us what that is?
Yeah, so an investigator that we had caught this off of a full spectrum camera. And so they wasn't even investigating yet. He was still trying to get a shot of the room on the full spectrum camera. And he was setting it up on a dresser that was up there. And he was in the shot for a couple seconds, and then trying to adjust the camera. Then he stepped out for like 3 seconds, and then this image just popped out of nowhere. And then he went back into the camera shot view, and the image was gone. And what I was trying to say before, like this building was really old, so you could hear footsteps, coming and going. But when this image came up and disappeared, you did not hear any footsteps happening at all. So it wasn't like, and there was a female with them that night, but she was never in the shot of the camera at all. She was in the back of the room, and she was never in the camera's point of view. And as you can tell from this one, it doesn't look like the girl was wearing, from what I remember, a black shirt that had like a Star Wars type logo on it. And this one, to me, kind of looks like a dress with a floral pattern on it.
Right. Yeah, I can see that in the darker images.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Crazy. And then you had given me this one.
Yeah, because there is a lot of people out there that likes orbs, which I'm kind of on the fence of it, because just because you're, in the area that's haunted doesn't mean orbs is actually like some sort of entity. But what I found interesting about this one is that normally uh, orbs, well, this one is actually in motion right now, so it's
Mhm.
just kind of like a streak. So, but the weird thing about this place is at the courthouse, they have tarps on the windows, so
Uh-huh.
there's no like lights coming in from the outside, and they got like curtains on top of it, and maybe you're getting a little bit of a reflection off that bench that's causing that, but I think it. I just thought it was kind of interesting the way it was moving, the way it was.
Right.
All right.
So and then,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
real quick, if we could just go back to something, I was having a little bit of technical issues there for a minute. I got muted somehow, and then I couldn't unmute myself, so I've just been listening to y'all.
You're just trying to be like me. That's all. Just how unprofessional, Wayne.
But yeah, you're exactly right. You expect no less here. Back when you talked about the entity kicking the table or moving the table, and
Mhm.
it all stemmed from this individual asking this spirit if it wanted to come home with them and play with his child. I mean, that
Mhm.
sent up red flags to me. I mean, I do not agree with asking a spirit to come home with you. I've said it so many times on this show when I talked to so many ghost hunters so far. One thing that's always stopped me from doing what you do, James, is that fear, that absolute terror of something latching on with me and coming
Mhm.
home and me giving it to my kids, not meaning to, or just having it on me. You know, I can't see doing that. And that's what has always stopped me from doing it. Has that ever happened to you? Do you ever feel like something has latched on to you during an investigation? And if not you, have you heard of anyone that you've been involved with that it's happened to?
I I know I I got a couple stories with this one. When I first got into the paranormal, I was living with my mom at the time, and I was doing a couple investigations, and she always would notice stuff that would happen when I'm not there. She honestly thought I brought something home with me. This I kind of wish I told this story last night, but I'll tell y'all now. Is that I was so everybody was outside of the house, and I heard like knocking coming from the basement door, and I was taking a look at it, seeing if there was anything there, and I saw the basement door unlatch that much. Let me see if I can, and then it just shut on its own. So I went outside and got my stepdad, and he actually ended up seeing the same thing in it, because it did it again for us both. And we did not go back inside the house for a couple hours. Um, so I don't know if I brought something home, or my mom was really big into antiques at that time. So I mean that's another possibility. Something that she bought was attached to it, because she did at one point was seen shadow figures. Um,
Hmm.
and whenever I go on an investigation, I try to be careful on my wording, because anytime you say like, hey, you can use my energy or use my energy to manifest yourself, I don't like doing that, because you're actually giving them permission to I mean, they can attach onto you after you say something like that.
Right. It's kind of like letting in one of the black-eyed children when they come to your door. Nope.
Exactly. There's no difference. I mean, um, it's just like, especially like using like Ouija boards and dowsing rods. You
Mhm.
have you're using yourself as a conductor. So, and you yourself is built of energy. So you're when you're using things like that, you're asking the pretty much whatever you're trying to communicate with to use your energy to manipulate the objects, whether
Mhm.
it be dowsing rods or um, or a Ouija board, which that's a whole different subject with Ouija boards causing trouble. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, but that's why using meters and EMF, I mean voice recorders is a little bit more safer. Now, like the Estes method, you you're kind of using yourself as a conductor, but you just got to really be careful with that. Try not to leave yourself open. What I mean by that is kind of like close yourself off. It's really hard to explain. You just got to uh, not be so open to the paranormal or anything like that, because the more you do it, the more you do open yourself up, and that's when you become more sensitive and all. What I The best way, and I hate to bring this up, but like if you watch earlier episodes of like Ghost Adventures, you see Zach Bagans, and he's like really in your face, provoking and all. But as
Mhm.
time goes on, you see a completely different side of him, to the point where he became more sensitive because he's been on so many investigations. He's had all this stuff happen to him, to the point where he left himself open, and that's eventually what happens to you, to the point where you really have to be careful when you go out there and do this. And as for like I actually had this happen to one of my investigators, and I lost him um doing this. I mean, he's alive and everything, but what happened was
Scared him to
there was
death.
I don't know
uh,
if I want hunting with you, James.
um but what happened was I came across this website. It was a cabin up in West Virginia. They call it the 13 Murder Cabin. And what
Sounds
happened
very
was,
inviting.
yeah, the only bad thing is that this investigator was supposed to take, because they were only allowing 3 people in the cabin at a time. So I had a couple people drop out, and he went by himself, which I do not agree on doing. And when he came back, I don't know if he got like a mild possession or what, but he ended up completely changed. He became more distant. He started vaping. He, I mean, you're talking about a guy that was that worked with the homeless and addicts and all, and he just became like a completely different person.
Well, that would absolutely scream that something left with him.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Like,
something definitely attached itself to him.
yeah, I mean, something that traumatic happening in that building.
Hmm.
Something that he was doing too is that he was actually talking to the murderer through
God.
letters. Yeah,
Through letters? Is that what you said?
yeah, yeah. He was actually mailing the
Like a
person
pen
that
pal.
actually did. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
Mm. The person that did the murders? Is that what you're
yeah,
talking about?
yeah,
Holy shit.
Yeah. That's a whole big box of nope with the bow on it.
Mm-mm.
yeah. I guess it's because he spent so much time as a counselor that he was trying to get his like train of thought behind it. But
Mhm.
after the investigation, it's just like and it didn't happen like what you would see from the movies or anything. It was something that gradually happened, like these
Mhm.
small changes happen, and then to the point where you didn't even recognize them anymore.
Right. That makes it tough.
And he did,
So,
yeah.
no, go ahead, Jane.
Well, I was just going to say he didn't even realize the changes happening, like because we brought it up to him, and we're at, I mean, people in the group, because we try to stay close with each other because we do things outside of the paranormal too. And we had people that was concerned about him, and he kind of got defensive whenever we brought it up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wasn't him getting defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
That's a great example right there, James. I mean, you hit it right on the head of why I don't do this shit. Because could not handle it, man. I can barely get by with just me. I mean, I don't want
You don't need anything else done to you.
I make enough bad decisions on my own. I don't need a ghost in there, provoking me and shit. Stay out. James, what is the most scared that you've ever been on an investigation?
Probably the time that I did go to St. Albans, because that building's so intimidating. I mean, just I pulled up to it, and you got to think this was probably about 6 o'clock p.m. So you got it was the time already changed, and so you got these like little street lights that were shining on it. And I actually saw that building for the first time in the daylight not long ago. And it's just like when I first pulled up to the building, I was like, do I really want to do this? But I already spent all this money to try to investigate it, because this place has been on like every major show that you could think of. And it seemed like someone always came back with an experience. So it was just kind of in that place didn't disappoint me, because I was me and some investigators were in front of the what they called the suicide bathroom, where at 3 different times nurses have took their lives, and I was sitting there in front of it with a camping chair, and I had my camcorder. I want to say it had like 50% battery life still left, and it just died on me. So I was setting it down, and then I looked up and I saw a shadow figure that was in front of me, like 3 feet in front of me. Couldn't The way I try to explain it, kind of looks like one of them caution signs where someone's walking across. They don't have no features or anything.
Yeah.
And it had been like at least 6 foot tall, but at first I thought it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, because I thought it was from the light from the LCD screen from where my camera just died. So I got up, and by the time I got up from my chair, the thing was already gone, and it looked like at the end of the hallway you could see the staircase that leads up to the bathrooms, and it looked like just a black blur that went downstairs. And I didn't say anybody to the other investigators, but one of them said, "You saw that too, right?" And I said, "Well, what did you see?" I saw that shadow figure, and I was like, "That's exactly what I saw."
Right.
So it was like a full body apparition, but more of a shadow.
It looked like a solid shadow. It almost looks like if you ever seen them caution signs for a crosswalk where the figures don't have any features, it's just like a circle head and then like a body outline. It almost looked like that, but it was like more of a 3D version of that.
Like you could reach out and just touch it.
Exactly right.
Don't touch it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been touched?
Yes.
Oh.
The way I try to explain it, it almost feels like if you ever took a balloon and rubbed it on your head, and then you rub it against your arm and having the hair stand up, it almost gives you that type of feeling whenever you get touched.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
Yeah, some people, and it also kind of gives you that like cobweb feeling, because if you ever done that, get close enough to the skin, because the cobwebs will actually do that to you as well. It makes your skin, like the hairs on your skin, raise up.
No.
So
I don't.
What about like injured? I heard you talk earlier about talk to people that have been scratched, and I actually talked to a lady earlier today that's going to be coming on the show, um, talking to her about her story, and she sent me a picture of something that scratched her. Like, have you ever been injured or anything?
I've been lucky so far. I haven't been injured. I've just been around people that have been. So, um, and I think it's a lot of a lot of it too is the way people approach it because um, I try to try I stay away from provoking. So I'm never like cussing it out or anything like that. Uh, so what I do is when I try to communicate with it, I try to just like I'm talking to you right now, just like having a conversation with somebody. I don't know if that's why I've been so lucky so far, but I do. But that's how I try to do, my voice work when I'm trying to communicate with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that you reminded me there of something that I was going to ask you earlier, back when I was having my technical issues. You talked about provoking the spirits, and that's something you don't usually do, right? You don't believe in that?
I don't believe in it for a couple reasons. Is that because so there? I'll give you this story. We had a client investigation, and there was two investigators that I had that were still kind of new, and they ended up provoking downstairs in her basement. And I'm just like, thankfully, the client wasn't able to hear because I told them that you got to think, hey, we're only here for a couple hours. Whatever we stir up, the person living here is going to have to live with it afterwards. So I called them out for it. Just be like, hey, take it easy when you uh, do provoking whenever you go on a client investigation. But if you want to, provoke one of these places that we have to pay for to get into, have
Mhm.
at it. If you want to try to get scratched or whatever, that's on you. But client investigations, you really have to be more respectful.
That's awesome, awesome advice, James. It really is. But I'll get to why I asked you that in a second. But I do want to get to Carson's questions first. Uh, James, ever come across a spirit with a with a sense of humor? I think that's a great question.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you'll have ones that will actually mess with you. Going back to the Salem Library that I
Mhm.
mentioned. Um, so we had a group. We were sitting around the table using the ghost box, and after we just ended the session, we heard something that sounded like a bunch of books falling from a shelf. So me and a couple of other investigators went back to the library to see if we could find anything out of place or any books that fell, and nothing was out of place. So we went back to the table where everybody was at, and then probably as soon as we were just got done telling everybody we didn't find anything, we heard it again. So we went back, still nothing out of place. Went back to the table again. We heard it one more time. So that time, after we heard it the third time, we actually had a couple people that was kind of spread out to see if they heard and could hear anything falling or anything like that to see if they can pinpoint where the noise was coming from. We did this for about 30 minutes trying to see if it happens again. Nothing. As soon as we get back to where everybody was at, it happened again.
This ghost is just messing with you.
Exactly.
They were bored. They're like, "Hey, let's mess them up."
I really think because I mean I've had something like that happen a couple times, so it's just um, they like. I mean, some of them do like to mess with you.
Yeah, I'll go back to the provoking real quick, and we're already at the hour. I mean, how fast did that hour fly by? But
Yes.
before we let you go, I do want to talk about the provoking a little bit. The very first episode or interview I did as the new host of Paranormal Odyssey, I interviewed the Wrestling with Ghosts crew out of Tennessee. Really good guys. I mean, they make movies and all kinds of stuff. Just cool, laid back people. Might actually try to get them back on. And I was talking to them, and that came up because that's one of the techniques that they use, the provoking. And Benny talked about going to Brushy Mountain, the penitentiary here in Tennessee, and going in James Earl, I think it's James Earl Ray, the guy that assassinated Martin Luther King.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They went in, that's where he was housed after the murder. Went into his cell and played the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. And they talked about just the insane reactions that they were getting. It sounded like you had rednecks over, hillbilly rednecks in one corner screaming, "Shut that the F off," and just screaming racial slurs. And then you would hear what sounded like black inmates cheering and stuff. And I just thought, man, that's got to be an awesome way to get a response to piss them off. But to your point, you don't want to do that in somebody's home.
Exactly.
It's like going on a Bigfoot investigation. Somebody calls you because they're having these creatures on their property and they want them gone, and you take your crew out there and start knocking on trees and leaving treats and shit like that for them. You're just going to stir them up. You're going to get more activity, and then when the night's over, you leave and go home, and then these people are stuck with all these pissed off Bigfoot, you know?
Exactly.
It's the same thing with ghosts, I would imagine.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, man, good stuff. James, tell everybody where they can find you, your group, and all that stuff.
Sure. So you can find us on Facebook. Just look up 13 Paranormal. We just recently changed the name from Research Society Virginia Paranormal, but you can still find us that way too. We're on X now, which I still want to say Twitter. And also we're on Instagram, and then you can find us at 13-paranormal.com as well.
Okay.
Which the page is still under construction.
All right. And
I guess too. So it's okay.
What'd you say, Tiffany?
I said I feel that because my website's still under construction.
Yeah, because you're unprofessional.
I missed you last week.
James is a professional. We don't expect that from him. We get that from you. But I shared this earlier. That is the link to your YouTube. I already took it down, so I can't put it back up. But guys, head over to his YouTube channel. Give him some subs. Like we said, it's brand new. He's only got a couple. Let's help him out. Help him grow his show, if at all possible.
And James, happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I meant to tell you last night. It just completely slipped my mind. So
when was your birthday?
It was actually Friday the 13th.
Heck yeah. That's a good birthday, man. How many times has your birthday, being the 13th, how many times in your life has it been on a Friday?
It's like every 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. We appreciate you coming and hanging out for a little while.
Yes,
keep up the awesome work. You get any more cool stuff, we'd love to have you back to talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
All
How cool is that?
Yeah, good stuff.
Yes.
That was all you. You found James, researched him, and did all of the pre-show stuff, asked the majority of the questions. You killing it.
Killing it, man. I'm not as unprofessional as you think I am.
Yeah. We'll agree to disagree.
Okay, dear. We'll agree to disagree.
Well, while we were on here, I asked Miss Naoma if she wanted to be our guest this Thursday.
Awesome.
Didn't see if she responded or not.
She did.
She did? What'd she say?
She did. She said yes. Is there anything specific that you would like her to speak about?
I'll text you, ma'am. We'll talk about it. All
Mhm.
right. You got anything before we get out of here?
Yes, actually. So I had talked to you briefly about it. So I really hope that I'm not like talking out of turn, but I started writing my fifth book. And it's a collection of little spooky stories. They're about 30 minutes, probably 30 to 45 minutes if you read them. But what I was going to do is, I know for the first 50 who join our membership, the $1.99 membership, we're working on the giveaway. But what I would do is the first 25, because I have to go through, I've already finished one. I have to go finish the other ones, but I would release that to the members only. It wouldn't be available anywhere else until it was published. But I would absolutely release it to the members only.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'll come on, do a live, and I'll read a couple of them, and it would be exclusive to you guys.
All right, y'all guys, y'all heard it. We are still taking those members only, $1.99 a month. It's not gonna kill nobody. $2 a month. Become a member of the show and get all that extra free content and all the perks. Miss Naoma is going to give an autographed copy of her book. Tiffany's sweetening the pot, and I'll come up with something to throw in there too. We'll do a giveaway. We'll draw a name for the first 50 from the first 50 members that come on, and we'll do something cool for you guys.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here. What is
Wait,
Zachary saying?
he said, I know I'm biased, but they're really good. You won't be disappointed. He gets the inside scoop.
Yeah, that's Mr. Tiffany Duran.
Dude, I'm going to call him that from now on.
Tiffany's husband, Zach.
Mr. Tiffany. It is Mr. Tiffany. I'm going to say, good night, Mr. Tiffany. That's funny.
All right, say your goodbyes, ma'am.
Goodbye. Thank y'all for coming. It's good to see you all again.
All right, guys, we will see you back here Thursday afternoon with Miss Naoma Finn. Opened it out. Guys, y'all take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Bye.